Hello, hello, tankers. Today we're going to be looking at the AMX1375 in the garage. MX1375, Tier 7 French light tank. Leads on from the AMX12T and goes on to the AMX1390. This often gets overlooked quite a lot, and that's because the gun isn't brilliant with the French light tanks, but we'll come on to that later. Okay, straight into the stats, guys. 900 hit points. You're a scout tank, you're French. How much health you've got is irrelevant. If you get shot at, you're going to die. But there we go. Weight limit can weigh up to 16.35 tons. Mine's nearly 15.5. Engine horsepower, 300. It's just not too bad. Speed limit, 61 kilometers per hour. That's pretty damn good. Traverse speed, 40 degrees. Hull armor. Let's just move that so you can see it again. Hull armor, 40, 20, 15. Don't need to worry about it. It's a scout. You're going to get shot at, you're going to get killed. That's the scout rule. We should all know that by now. Turret armor, 5 more than the on the rear than the hull armor, so pointless. Shell damage, 101 to 169. Penetration, 108 to 180. Again, you're a scout. Your gun's not really your thing. Rate of fire, 13.85 rounds per minute. And remember, this is most of the French tanks now have auto-loaders, so it's 13 rounds a minute. Turret traverse speed, 46 degrees. View range, so these are the two important ones really, apart from the weight and the engine power and speed. And the traverse, okay, apart from those. View range, 390, that's pretty good. That's the same as the Tiger II, I believe, actually. That's a Tier 8 heavy German heavy tank with good view range. And the signal range, 750, so it's a decent scout. 1375 also is very low profile, so it has a good camo rating on it. Okay, so let's get into the modules that we've got here. So, guns. Now we've got 2 guns. One you start off with the 12T, I believe. No, stock gun, and the upgraded gun. Both 75mm. Only difference being that the, main difference is this one fires less, the top 75 that I've got mounted on. 6 shells in the mag, and 2 seconds loading. Time of complete loading, 16 seconds. So it reloads quite snappy. Average penetration, I'm going to give you the average and the gold stats now, mainly because I run it with gold, and I'll explain why. Standard AP is 144 average penetration and 135 average damage. Yeah, you can use it like that, but this will get into Tier 9 games and don't expect to be killing anything, or helping to damage anything, or piss anything off a Tier 9 game with only that penetration and that damage. I run it with the gold ammo, APCR, as 202 penetration and 135 average damage, so it's that extra little bit. It's quite nice. Accuracy 0.36 and aiming time 2.3 seconds. With the French tanks a lot, if you don't wait for the first shell to aim in properly, it'll throw the rest of them off sequence. Every shot counts because you're an autoloader. You can't just, reload another shell, reload and carry on doing it like, for example, a Chaffee could. You've got to make every shell in your magazine count. This is why if you're playing on a crappy little laptop, like I happen to be at the moment, auto-aim is a blessing if you're trying to circle something. It really is, because it just points at the middle of the tank, and let's face it, if you're around the sides or the rear of a tank, for example, the E75 or the Tiger II, then if you're using those packs, even if you only pack 1 magazine of APCR and load it in just before you make a dash for the artillery, and you want to just, nibble away at some guy's health just to make sure that your heavy tanks can get in close, getting in the sides of the rear, that's more than enough. It's good, it's decent. So, turret, don't really need to worry about that. Engine, now you've got 3 engines on this tank. You've got the stock, the medium, and the top engine. Always progress up the engines. You want to get the engines and suspensions and the radios as fast as you can. Leave the guns till last. Chance of fire and impact 15% is not too bad. Obviously horsepower ranging from 250 to 280 to 300, which is nice enough. Engines, your T7 Scout, but you get a Tier 10 radio, 750 meter view range, which is very, very nice. And obviously with that camo rating rather, you can spot things quite a way away. Okay, so equipment. I've gone for camo net because I'm a scout. Obviously, that doesn't need to be explained anymore. Improved vents, as we already know, as a lot of you already know, I love my vents. So +5 to all crew skills, very, very nice. And binocs, because I tend to use this as an aggressive bush scout. And okay, so ammo loadout. You can have up to 36 rounds of ammo. It's perfectly fine to run it with AP and HE. I like running mine with APCR, so I can take on the T28 prototype shows up, and he's dueling off with, I don't know, a Tiger 2 and a KV-1S, which has happened. I've been in that. There was a game that I had in that, and I was on slight of the ridge off to his right, so he would be off to my right, and I was just popping up this ridge, turn my turret to the right, fire a couple of shots at him, duck back down again. This was all hitting into his side with the APCR, and I got the kill because those two were keeping him busy, the Tiger 1 and the KV-1S. Tiger and the KV-1S, can't remember if it was Tiger 2 or not, but it doesn't really matter. They were keeping him busy, and I was doing a lot of the damage to him because you're fast enough to nip up and pick off isolated tanks. That's what the French tanks are good for. And it's a good skill to learn, because when you get the 1375, the Lorraine 40 ton, and the Bat Chatillon 50T, whatever it is, I can never remember the full name, just called Bat Chat. That's a skill that you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn to pick off isolated tanks, or take those shots at the side of tanks so that you can do some damage. Obviously consumables, repair kit, first aid kit, fire extinguisher. With the 1375, as you've probably should have learnt by now with the ELC and the 12T, and if you haven't learnt it by now, god damn, you learn now. The longer you stay alive in a French light tank, the more effective you're going to be towards the later stages of the game. Because if you think about it, a tier 8 heavy tank, Tiger 2, 400 health, towards the latter stages of the game, everyone's had their health chipped away. There's less tanks in the game. This is obviously if you're winning, and you're still full health. You've got most of your ammunition still left, because all you've been doing is doing a couple of spots, maybe a spotting run or two. You can then use an opportunity like this to get around and get in and get behind and around these isolated heavy tanks or tank destroyers, and your standard shell damage 101 to 169 with the ammunition, which is what I use with the APCR or with the AP. Well, it's exactly the same actually. So there we go. That damage, you've got a 6-round clip, even if you bounce 2 shots, and if the Tiger's a 1-shot for heavy, but your heavies are also 1-shot, or they're just cowards, because that's how random battles works. You can get around it, you can get those tier 8 kills, and there's nothing more satisfying than watching the biblical amount of rage when a tier 8 or even a tier 9 tank gets killed by an ickle little French scout tank. No, diddums. Never mind. That's what these French tanks are good for. Sitting in a bush, spotting things up, staying alive, and then making runs on isolated heavy tanks, tank destroyers, and also on the enemy artillery. So many artillery kills in my scout tanks, because you stay alive to the late stages of the game, as I've said. Get in there, get the artillery. Your team are going to appreciate it. They may not say it, but they're going to appreciate it, because it's one less gun firing at them and one less scumbag on the enemy team. So that's the way you should be playing these light tanks now. Keep your camouflage up, don't get spotted too much. Oh, I haven't talked about crew skills. There we go. Yeah, don't get spotted so much. That reminds me. Crew skills. I've carried this over from the 12T, because I was absolutely shite at playing the 12T. They were only on about 60% on their first crew skills, because I free XP'd most of my way through it. Crew skills. I've gone for camouflage on all 3 at the moment. Camo rating is everything when you're in your scout tanks. As soon as a commander gets to 100%, I will probably switch it out for 6th Sense and keep the camouflage. Train that back up. The gunner, I'm really tempted to give him Deadeye just to piss people off even more once he reaches 100%. But, it's up to you. You could train, whatever you want, really. I think he also might be the radio operator. So, your driver, Clutch braking, not a bad idea. Off-road driving, a very good idea actually. For camouflage, I'm probably going to do that. That's basically covering everything. So, top tips for the AMX1375. Get the camo on it. You carry a stack or two of APCR and some HE if needed. Keep your camo, don't get spotted, and don't be an utter moron and die in the first 2 minutes of the game. Stay alive. You will get more kills and more damage, and also more assistance damage if you stay alive. Funny how that works. Anyway, keep calm and game on, guys. Thanks for watching.